It's summer, and only a few weeks since Core Set 2021 officially launched, and so we are now able to talk about what effect these new cards are having on Standard, what effect these awesome reprints are having on prices, what Commander decks are going to want to take from the Core Set, what they've already grabbed and how they've used them, and best of all, the limited draft environment of Core Set. What is it shaped up to be? We can't talk about any of those things because Jumpstart just launched. Now, Jumpstart is the most amazing product. Just a few days ago, it was released. It's still on its way to many local game stores around the world, so it may not have arrived yet, but it's coming, and there's so much potential for Jumpstart. New decks that Wizards can make in the future, what current strengths the half decks have. We're not talking about any of that today because we have to talk Double Masters previews. This is week 1 of Double Masters, and so we're going to talk about what was previewed, what we learned about box toppers, what is going to be in the remaining cards of the set. We can't talk about that because this Saturday, Mark Rosewater is going to be revealing Zendikar Rising details. It's time for Zendikar Rising! And so, let's speculate endlessly about that before the next set. It's the Professor's preposterous predictions for Zendikar Rising. Oh, I got a little overhyped there. Outhyped. Whew. All right, let's talk predictions for Zendikar Rising, the fall set. Our return to Zendikar. Prediction number 5 from me is actually a prediction about an absence of something that you might expect to see in Zendikar. And that prediction is no Eldrazi whatsoever and no colorless mana. For those of you who follow the behind the scenes, Battle for Zendikar may have been the best-selling set of all time at its release, but it was considered by many, including Mark Rosewater, to be a bit of a disappointment or perhaps a full-on disaster. Now, there are many reasons why, but one of the biggest things that was cited for player frustration was the overabundance of Eldrazi and the premise of Zendikar, this incredibly popular D&D-like adventure plane being completely dismantled and destroyed and made into a wasteland, which we then began to do in Innistrad, another incredibly popular plane where it didn't quite get into a wasteland, but it certainly got subverted and people didn't like that. And then we introduced Amonkhet, and that was one where everybody liked it at first, but then we destroyed everything. So they've kind of learned their lesson about that. And I think that we're going to see true adventure plane, and part of the directive is going to be, we've done the Eldrazi, we've done the wastelands, we are going to put that in a box and put it aside, and let's really embrace that premise of the vast landscape, the adventure, the D&D-like exploration that characters might go into. And I think that at the most, we might have one lone Eldrazi card that'll be something like Dwindling Drone, and it will emphasize that the Eldrazi have been completely destroyed on Zendikar and withered away. It might have flavor text about how quickly the Zendikar land grew back. I feel they want to get as far away from that, and as a result, mechanically speaking, they're not going to bring back wastes or colorless mana. I had predicted the return of colorless mana multiple times in my prediction videos since Battle for Zendikar, and so in this one I'm saying it's not coming back, which given my track record means it probably is. Coming in at number 4 is another prediction about the lack of something, and that is the lack of, well, story. I actually am predicting that we are not going to see much in the way of Magic story in the same way that we haven't seen much of Magic story in the last couple sets, probably on the scale of like Theros. I don't think that we're going to have a big ushered in return to story in Zendikar, and I definitely think the Gatewatch will not be there. Nissa may, and it may be about Nissa, but it's not even going to be about her relationship with the Gatewatch, certainly not Chandra, and so I think it might be more of a return to the old style of an isolated tale that is not going to continue on in the following sets. Magic's story really has fallen a long way, and I don't think that it's going to be recovering anytime soon. I think there's big plans behind the scenes for it to do so, but I think that it's very possible there actually was story planned for Zendikar involving Nissa, involving perhaps the Gatewatch, and given the disastrous ending of War of the Spark, that maybe all of this got scrapped and couldn't be replaced on time. Other things going on with Wizards of the Coast may have caused there to be a desire to not get too deep into any particular story until they really reorient what their goals are and how they are going to accomplish them. And my prediction is it hasn't been long enough for them to put this into motion. So whatever may or may not have been planned for our return to Zendikar, we're not going to see much in the way of story, and it's probably going to be much more akin to what we saw in Theros, some little misspelled name cards and little story tidbits of what perhaps was superficially planned but abandoned. I would love to see the return of a deep, complex, and trustworthy, engaging story. I don't believe this will be the set for it. But enough about what Zendikar Rising is not going to have. I want to talk about something that it is going to have and something that I view as an absolute positive. Let's talk mechanics. One of the most popular mechanics of all time was actually in the original Zendikar block, and that is the Landfall mechanic. And it was so popular that they brought it back in Battle for Zendikar. It was one of the bigger highlights of that set, and I think the very fact that it sounds crazy that they would bring it back yet again is why they should do it. Why they will do it, because it's a talking point, it's a popular returning mechanic, it's something that represents what everyone loves about Zendikar. I think Landfall's coming back for a third time. Now, the number 2 prediction is a bit of a weird one. I'm not sure if it's a positive or a negative. Perhaps it's got a little bit tied up in both. But one of the things that Zendikar has been famous for since the beginning was the inclusion of full art lands in booster packs. It was only until recently that we saw full art lands appear anywhere outside of Zendikar. Again, this was kind of a unique Zendikar thing that then started showing up elsewhere, making it a little less special. And we've also seen a lot of supplemental products with full art lands, but nonetheless, I believe Zendikar full art lands will be coming back. It would be absurd not to have full art lands in every pack of Zendikar. It's just such a break with tradition and what people associate with it. And I think that this actually is going to lead to a lot of problems. Problem number 1, one of the big things coming out are these VIP boosters, where one of the big selling points of it is that it's stuffed full of full art lands. And what full art lands are in the $100 VIP boosters? Why, they're of self-admitted sexual predator Noah Bradley and his Zendikar full art lands. And now these are something that was already at just about 30, 40, 50 cents each, and they're going to be included in the VIP boosters. That's one thing that was already a letdown, but imagine if in the very next set after VIP boosters, literally, it's going to go double masters, VIP boosters, Zendikar Rising, and then they put Zendikar full art lands in them, and it just drives home how less than special those VIP boosters are. Now, maybe they've thought of something clever, like a complete new design, because Zendikar has a very distinct design with the floating hedrons, and so they're like, well, let's try and break from that. Let's do something really special and new. I don't think so. I think they're probably going to bring in a lot of the old art from full arts in the past and maybe commission a few new ones. And I like full art lands in Zendikar. I feel that this is a case of some of this supplemental product and the inclusion of them in some other sets, making them a little less special. It's a mixed bag, but I can't imagine them doing Zendikar Rising without including a full art land in every single pack. And I can't imagine those full art lands not being the typical hedrons on the landscape. And yeah, they probably went with a lot of art from Noah Bradley. So buckle up. What's my number 1 prediction for Zendikar Rising? Well, I mentioned a little earlier in this video the absence of fetch lands. And no, I'm not going to say my prediction is no fetch lands, because Wizards of the Coast has already confirmed there will be no fetch lands in Zendikar Rising. I repeat, Zendikar Rising will not contain fetch lands, as stated several times now by Wizards of the Coast. However, there is a rumor that I've become aware of, and spoiler alert, if you don't want to hear this, rumor about to be hit, skip ahead to this time code to not get it, but there's a rumor that the fetch lands will return in the Zendikar Rising Collector's Boosters, the $25 premium packs. That's more expensive than a Masters pack. Why didn't they put fetch lands in Double Masters? Well, because we're going to put it in an even more expensive pack. Maybe. And so that's the rumor. I would hate this with the fiery passion of 1,000 dying suns. And so, yes, final prediction, that they are going to be in there? No, that's too easy because that was a rumor. That was a leak. All right, we're going to go to the time code that's safe. I do think that's going to happen, but the actual number one prediction that I have is not that that spoiler I just mentioned is going to be true, which sadly probably will be, but rather that they're going to try and counter this by creating a new, super pushed dual land. Wizards of the Coast knows that players are upset about the lack of fetch land reprints, and they know that players expect dual lands like fetch lands to have some sort of a planner tie, just like we expect to see the shock lands when we go to Ravnica. We expect to see fetch lands in Zendikar, even though they didn't do it last time. And I think that part of what they're going to do to try and compensate is to say, all right, let's give them something to talk about. And they're going to determine a way that they could really push a rare dual land in a way that hasn't been pushed before, but also in a way where it doesn't crack and then go through the deck and require shuffling, but a new enter the battlefield effect, some new component or property that is going to be considered wildly powerful, possibly even rivaling what fetch lands do. I don't know, but I do know that they're not just going to put the former core check lands in Zendikar Rising, because that just invites so much criticism and frustration, doesn't it? And so what they want to do is create a narrative of, well, we're not getting fetch lands, but we are getting X. What is X going to be? I think it's going to be super powerful, perhaps broken, and I'm excited to see what it is, but also I really wish they had just put fetch lands in as masterpieces in Zendikar Rising and maybe put it in at rare in Double Masters and a lot of other things. But never minding fetch lands, my number one prediction is that we're going to see extremely pushed land cards at the rare level in Zendikar Rising. So those are my predictions, but now I want to hear from you. What do you expect to see in Zendikar Rising, and what do you think Rosewater is going to reveal this weekend? Let me know in the comments below. If you are looking to score yourself some sweet Tolarian Community College merchandise like playmats, t-shirts, coffee mugs, just go to www.tolariancommunitycollege.com/store and make your order with worldwide shipping available. Or if you want to continue supporting this channel, this month, the month of July, I am offering at the signed card level over on Patreon, signed Baron Tolarian Archmage cards. So if you want the professor of Tolarian Community College signing the card of the famous teacher of the Tolarian Academy, and you want to continue to support Tolarian Community College and keep this channel going and growing strong, head on over to patreon.com/Tolarian Community College, or just pick up a t-shirt at TolarianCommunityCollege.com/store.
Characters are connected. Like if I pick a commander, I will go on the Wikipedia and be like, okay, what is that character's history? How does it fit in with this whole storyline? So that is fun for me. I think being part of a nerdy fandom is like enjoying and absorbing that environment, that history. Because it really tells you sort of like, in terms of newer stories, where things should be going and like what has progressed and what has not progressed in terms of like who's writing these stories. And I think that I love when you can see narrative in cards. I like that art form as someone who's really into comics and manga. Like I think that that's so compelling and interesting, and I think because Magic is a game with story, with characters that tries to build these universes, it is so valuable to like look at all of it together, especially when you get a card like Sisay's Descendant, which I have, and I'm just like, oh, I love having all those cards together to be like, look at this card having an actual legacy in the cards. Like that to me is really fun and cool. I get really into that stuff.